Test test. So what happens when you open up a picture as a text file, right? And I have a bunch of crap. Let's go over to some media, right? So I have the Mona Lisa, right? I like this version. This is the way it originally looked. But what happens when I open up the Mona Lisa as a text file? Open with Notepad++. That's the Mona Lisa as well. It's just looking at it from a different way. All right? And a lot of this stuff you can't read because text editor isn't using the right language. So there's these hexadecimal readers. I think that I have... No, that's a mail app. Let's see if I have it here. There we go. What happens if I open up Mona Lisa in something that's designed to read that text format? So there you go. This is the decoded text right here. And we could see some information. There's a header, right? This has actual information. This is a guy's name, a timestamp, a date stamp. Maybe some. This is like what they say. There's metadata. This is where the metadata is encoded into. But then what happens if I take sections of this? This is the Mona Lisa as well. And then what happens if I just install this one, so I don't know how it actually works. Let's see. Okay, I can just highlight it. And what happens if I take a large section and I delete it? I save it. And then I open it back up. Right? So this is like sculpting with data, right? This is what the Mona Lisa really is. So in the same way, this allows me to reload it. I can do it over here, knowing that this header, I don't want to mess around with it. It won't know how to open it. It won't know it's a picture, right? If you take the header away. But if I go down here, and I could just easily take a large section and copy and paste it a bunch of times. Save, and then reopen. And now we've introduced new stuff. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know what I'm doing exactly. I know some areas, and there's some guides that I'll give you links to where you can actually read certain sections. You can get an idea. Like in a video file, you can open up as a text editor as well, but there's different sections for video and audio, and you can figure out some of this kind of stuff. And it is done temporally, or it is done in a certain positioning, right? You're moving from top left to bottom right kind of thing. So there is a way of me knowing a little bit more, being more educated of how I'm disturbing this data. But again, it's a surprise, and it's exhilarating, and it's there's a whole process of this. So as you see, this is just a single image. I think it's like 2K or 4K resolution, but it's a lot of information here. Another great way to kind of script a lot of the stuff is to keep the same size, right? Not to delete or add more, but take large sections and just let me just scroll down, and we can do find and replace, right? So take every A and replace it with a D. I don't know. And replace all. All right, it did it 3,000 times. And save. And let's see if it even opens up anymore. Always back up your files when doing this kind of crap. There, that's the Mona Lisa now. So this is also the Mona Lisa. So this is the kind of stuff I want to encourage you guys to kind of have fun with. So let's do this now with a video. I put a link in the week for sample videos, just in case you don't happen to have a whole bunch of 1 megabyte files. This is a place that has that big fluffy bunny movie you always see as open source. You could download sections of this to mess around with this kind of stuff if you don't have something you specifically want to use to glitch out. So using text editor and VLC, let's do the same thing with a video. Let me close all this stuff up real quick. So I download, one-click download, and here we go. And it's just this couple second clip. Right? But I'm going to use a smaller one I downloaded earlier. Doink. And let's go ahead and put it in my little media folder so I can mess around with it. Okay, so now with this playing in VLC on a loop, is it on a loop? Yeah, it's on a loop. Okay, so I'm going to open it up. And we'll do the same thing we just did with the pictures, but we'll do it for a video. Right, large section of stuff. Kind of in the middle, halfway through. Again, it's kind of in order, temporally. And I'm going to find every A and replace it with a D. Right, and then I hit save. There we go. Without even having to restart it, we now I'm just watching it in real time. Or let's copy and paste a couple. And break it. And break it. And undo. So it's a good idea to keep it the same length. So it's better to copy, to find and replace than it is to cut. When it comes to video, at least. So now I hit save, and now it's back as a real video. Right? So this is the kind of stuff you could do to mess around. All right. So the people have made some automated tools because you see I'm doing a lot of scrolling, a lot of that kind of stuff. I put a link for that kind of stuff also in the week 4, and there's one called ByByte, and it's a command line tool. That you go to GitHub and you can, if you have Node already installed on your computer, you can npm and install it, and then we can. It's in my command prompt. So I have copied and pasted a couple ones I did here. I was able to use both video and pictures, but I was able to like either destroy or shuffle around information. And let's just say, let me. This guy's back to normal, right? And I'm going to go to the folder. And let's bring our command prompt into that folder. All right, so we need to make it, it's on my E drive. I just have to know that. And then it is, I'm going to change the directory into this folder. So I don't have to worry about including the file path as part of the file name. All right, so now we're in media. And let's find the sample video. I'm going to take the full name of it. And all this information is again on the GitHub. You just follow it. And I'm going to make it called class 01 glitch. All right. Copy. And now if I paste that in there, it's going to run it. Oh no. Let's see if it worked. No, I haven't had it working. Let's do it this way. Anyway, this is a way of more thoroughly going through the entire text file. Alright, it did it, it made it. I called it O2 destroyed. Right? That's pretty cool, right? It was doing what I was doing, it automated it though, so I didn't have to go through the whole file. Well, I mean, here's the whole GitHub. I gave you links for that, so you can kind of see. But it's destroying information, or it's shuffling it around, and keeping it in there and moving around. So those are the two methodologies, and you just say how much from 0 to 1, and every percentage in between, and then do you want it just for parts of it or for the entire part? Those are the sections of the code or the command line prompts. Cool. Let's see. I have a little text file so we can keep on track today. Cool. So the most classic way of doing the data mosh effect is also in the syllabus, and it's using this program called AVI Demux, which I could show you. Actually, the first time I did it was a few years ago. On my first thing I ever made in grad school was a video of soap bubbles. It was just, we were making them bounce around to sine waves. Let's see if they have. And there's just like a bubble on like a light table that I made out of like a basket and some LED lights, right? So these cool little bubbles, and that looked pretty awesome. And then there's like hard cuts between the different bubbles. Right, we found different waves, sine waves, did different frequencies, did different things with the bubbles, and then we also found a certain frequency that can actually pop every bubble, so I could do it like on key press, which I thought was pretty interesting, a little exploration. Cool. The sound is just Maxim SP. I'm just slider going up and down on a sine tone, right, or two that are together with each other. But you know what we're about to do is I can show you the iframe p-frame thing. Is this is what happens when you remove all the iframes. Right? This is what we're seeing. So the motion of the cut is pushing the pixels around. It's really cool. I had like this 12-year-old dude like wrote me emails like, man, can I project that behind my band? It's like, of course you can. Of course you can, man. Of course you can. That's awesome, right? So, has anyone done this? Used this program, AVI Demux, to do data mosh? Have you done this? You were aware that it exists and that's a thing. It's real quick. I'm just going to show you again. Today's like really small things. So I installed it. I gave you a link to download it inside of the week 4. It's called AVI Demux. That's actually the install file. Let's see if I can find it here. Let's find it somewhere on my desktop. Maybe I should have let it put an icon on my desktop. I was like, no. Where'd it go? I can just install it again. Let's do it that way. Run it. Sure. Alright, so I'm going to take a video with some cuts in it. And load it in. Alright, so I have my Buster Keaton stuff from the previous weeks, and I'm going to open it up. Alright, so this is the normal Buster Keaton. Whenever it tries to help me out, say, no, don't help me out. No, I want to keep it bad. Alright, so as I scrub around, you see how it's like stopping at certain frames? These are all the iframes, right? These are the picture-perfect frames, and it's stopping at the keyframes, right? I'm going to convert this into a format that's a little easier to parse. This is just like something from the tutorial, which you guys can read yourself. And then I know that I want to make sure that I am looking at all iframes. I don't want to just do certain sections. I want to scrub everything. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick. And this is just called Buster Max Intervals. I already did this once, so I'll do it 2. and save. Cool. And now it's exporting the whole thing. And like any good cooking show, I already have one that's ready to come out of the oven. So all aboard. Don't care. And I'm going to bring in the one I made.
I like how it's like it was not saved correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to screw around with this stuff. All right. So now this is ready for me to analyze the iframes keyframes. And just using my a couple of shortcuts, if I hit up, it's seeking to every iframe, right? And down, it's going to every iframe, right? And so I want to keep the first one, but here, this is the first cut to another piece of footage. If I do open bracket, go forward a frame, and close bracket, I've now isolated one frame, and the delete button removes it, right? And so you can do a little macro or whatever, or you can. I was actually making a song. I was like, okay, up thing, and then bracket, and then forward, do, and then delete, and then forward, up, and then bracket, right? And then you start getting rid of some of these. Okay, let's do one more. And now when I hit down, there's no iframes in between where I went. And so I went through each of these things and I deleted the iframes out, right? And then I turn it back to copy and make a copy of this, and then and if I hit save, this is what I got with no iframes. I also took a couple of those frames, I grabbed a selection, and I copied and pasted them a bunch of times. Or did I do it in this one? No. But anyway, basically it destroyed the audio, but now we have Data Mosh Buster Keaton just using this software in a couple minutes. Right? Everything between the iframes are those P and B frames. I take a section of them, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then you get that stuff where their jaws are dropping and going, whoa! That's that redundancy of P frames, right? So this is kind of fun kind of stuff to do. I really destroyed it at one point. Doesn't even know how to open it up anymore. Is this the one? No. There you go. That's the P-frame thing, right? I copied and pasted those P-frames, and it distorts it. And it was a very painterly kind of effect, right? Right? Cool. So, let's get into pixel sorting. I'm doing the order that I gave the presentation in today. So another link I gave you guys is to a piece of software called Pixel Drifter. There's also a P5, like a library that does this as well. And I say, let's try Pixel Drifter. And this is a kind of a fun way of seeing what's at the core of this this methodology of sorting by certain values. So I'm going to open up the little jar file. Let's open up the batch file then. Alright, so here's Pixel Drifter, and I've probably already destroyed my Mona Lisa, so I probably need to get another picture real quick. Everything on my desktop doesn't really matter. I don't even know what this is going to be. Image 3704. Alright, so here's the mocap system at the RLab. There you go. And then I can go to some options, and I'm going to say how I'm going to parse this. Do I want to move them a set value? How far do I want them to move? Or do I want to move by how strong they are? Right? The things that are the most black go the furthest, and this might be the easiest way to see what's happening underneath the hood. So I'm just going to keep this as is. And then how do I want to sort? What's the movement? Is it straight or whatever? I'm going to say, let's do straight movement. Close. And the visualization, if I want to make it how fast I want the frame rate to be, if you try to make it a fast frame rate, it'll be uneven. However long it takes to crunch numbers. If you want to record this as a time lapse, I would do a lower frame rate, and you can speed it up later on. I'm going to go ahead and close, and then if I say process, it's going to start sorting the pixels. and it's moving both vertically and horizontally. Probably should not find like a raw image and find a smaller little JPEG and do that real quick. Mona Lisa small. That's probably not the way to do it. There we go. There's a nice small size with a watermark. Great. I'll do it on my desktop. 3602. This is getting going, right? Let's go ahead and exit. But if you go to the Pixel Drifter website, you'll see a lot of really great examples of how they're using it subtly. Let's do it one more time. It was this one, open, and I'll just keep it the same way, and let's do it much quicker, right? Now you see what's happening. All right, let's go ahead and process it again. And what you eventually see, maybe this one doesn't have enough color range, but eventually what you'll see is it'll move into quadrants, and you'll see that it's basically two gradients on top of each other if you go too far. But anyway, both the time lapse is interesting and the final result is interesting. There's ways of doing this in Photoshop where you just do it to masked areas so that you can just make it look like a face distorts or something like that. But there's plugins for this as well, but they're like $70, and I didn't want to. I couldn't hack them. I was trying to for you. All right, so that's Pixel stuff. Let's move into After Effects a little bit. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of one last thing, which is RGB shift, which is used all the time, overused, but it's super quick to do. I have my little cat here. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this guy. He's my personal cat. He's doing its thing. And but as we know, this information is actually a red and a green and a blue channel, right? So I know how to do this in many programs, but I didn't know how to do it in After Effects. And it's underneath set channels. I can tell the different channels to turn themselves off. So we'll take off red and take off green, right? And so this is the blue channel. Makes sense, right? Showing the blue information. If I duplicate, this one on top can now be blue channels off, and green is green. Green channel. Makes sense. Let's duplicate it again, and the one on top could be the red. Off, and then the red. And then if I composite them together, and I say add, and you add, what do we have? The original image. Okay? So now if I take one off to the side a little bit though, we notice that there's a shift of RGB, right? You can still make out the image, but it's slightly skewed. Right? Super simple, but it's a super effective thing. You see it all the time. So I'm going to line them back up again, and we're going to do our first expression in After Effects. So we're going to do a little bit of a little command line stuff in After Effects. And it's my favorite one. It's called the wiggle. So I'm going to hit P, which gives me my position. And if I hold down Alt and I click on the stopwatch, like the keyframe thing, I now have a little text editor thing inside of After Effects that I can do stuff with, right? So I'm going to say wiggle. And it's basically two parameters. It's how many pixels do I want to wiggle. This is pretty small, but I'm going to say 10 pixels to start off with. And that's over like how much time. This is pretty short, so I don't really think it matters. If it was a longer thing, it would be like it wiggles and returns back to normal over a period of time, or how many frames. I'm going to say the thing is only 11 frames, so I'll say 10. So 10 and 10. Hit enter, or click somewhere else. And the top layer is now wiggling, right? Then I could do the same thing with another one. Just take that and copy and paste it. And whenever you're doing this methodology, it's probably good to have like an original at the bottom that's not messed up, so that it keeps the original image that you can see, right? And so I'll just make this one additive too, or just keep it there in case they clip off the edge of everything. So under position, I'm holding up Alt again, and I have my wiggle. And then the last one, Alt, wiggle. Cool. So now we have,
Is the original image there too?
yeah, the original image is there too, just in case they clip too far out. The original is there to hold down the fort, you know. Right? That's fun. Save. Cool. So now that's the end of destructing things. Let's figure out ways of tracking pixels. And there's a lot of really expensive software that does really well. To show you guys in After Effects, it's really quickly to get going if I show you how to do it here. After Effects is another component you've seen installed next to it called Mocha that does this like more professionally. But what we're doing is fine in here because we're making art. So I have here our train footage that we were looking at a couple weeks ago, right? And this guy right here, this dude, I want to know where he is going. I want to find some pixels on him. I want to track him throughout the duration of this composition. So I'm going to trim, which was Shift Command D. It does a duplicate trim thing. There you go. Actually, that was silly. Let's get him at the very beginning of when he shows up. There, he's all the way in here. And then he's all the way gone here. I like that guy so much too, we're going to keep him. Alright, so I'm just holding on Shift and I can snap the end of that there, bring down my entire composition down by holding Shift and snap it, and then this one just lets me resize it so I can see everything I'm doing in greater detail. Cool. And then I'm going to add in a null. All right, this is like an empty thing that is I'm going to track the information. I'm going to put the information onto this null. Okay, that is a layer, or I can right-click in this empty space and say new null object. And then over here we have the tracker. What is my motion source? It's the train entering. And if I select train entering, I can say track motion. Let's do that. So let's go back to where our fellow is, right here, and we're going to track motion. And it gives me a track point. We get in here, we can move this around, and it zooms in. And I can find some area of high contrast on him, like his teeth or something, like these pixels, right? And you have two squares here, if you guys can see. You have like the inner one, which is like this is where I want the accuracy to be. But while you're searching, you can search in a broader area of here while it's moving, just so you don't lose it, right? This is kind of two tastes. You get used to this. Like in general, this is his mouth. I want that point. That's the center thing. I should be able to move one of these. Yeah, so check out the whole mouth, right? Follow the whole mouth, but specifically look at that pixel kind of thing. And I'm looking at just position. Now, if I were to say I want to look at rotation, this one doesn't rotate, and this one doesn't scale. It would give me another point, and it would track 2 points in space so that I could get rotation or scale. Right? Same thing, you find another point of high contrast. And then I can either analyze frame by frame and watch it meticulously. This is pretty clean. So I can maybe just hit play and let it analyze forward. Looking pretty good. I can always rewind and start from scratch. There's a little keyframe in every single frame, and I can delete them just like any other keyframe, but just like a track of keyframes. And I gotta stop because I think he exited the frame, and there's all those keyframes. I can still go forward a little bit more because he wasn't all the way gone. Or again, frame by frame by frame. If it's really complicated, and I need to remove those little other boxes around it. going to apply X and Y, and it's on that null. So now the null is moving. And if I want to bring in my cat and position him over the face, we're going to do a quick other expression, which is I want this to loop. Right, so I'm going to enable time remapping, and now under here I'm going to go to Alt, and I'm going to say loop out, and click somewhere else, and now it has an error. Oh, because I forgot the little brackets or parentheses. Yeah, parentheses. And click somewhere else, and now it's looping. Cool. And then I want to, this little thing's called a pick whip, and I'm going to pick whip it over to the null. Right, so now we're now tracking XY coordinates. Same thing with rotation scale. This is actually kind of effective if you're trying to fake an AR piece and you're like really need to get some documentation. You can do this kind of stuff, like put like a grid on your phone, and then you can track the phone really easily or whatever. But this guy, I'm really interested in this guy, this other dude. I want him to be the focus of attention. I want him, he's the center of my world. So I'm going to go to the beginning of when he enters in. And I want to actually stabilize motion. This is called face centering. Oh no, I'm sorry, I have to select the video I'm going to actually analyze. Say that it's the source. And then let's go to the frame. Right there. And stabilize motion. Alright. Track point 1. And this could be useful if like you have like a performer who is like jumping or something like that, but you want a projector always like in the center of a scrim. You can stabilize the camera around the person so that they're always being projected inside of the frame. Let's move it over. Whoa, that was crazy. I really like this guy's nostrils, so we're going to do that. That's right, look at the nostril and the whole nose. Cool. And we're going to stabilize. Let's go. I've actually never done this on two things at one time. Hopefully, maybe I'll need another null. I'm not quite sure. We're out in the wild right now. There's a riff in. Let's put this right there. And let's track. Totally missed. Let's go back. Tracker 2, I'm going to delete. Let's come back to the beginning frame. You can't make all these things perfect. Let's see. Train entering. Track. Yeah. And then let's do stabilize motion. And okay, that makes sense to me. Let's try doing frame forward. Now it's who's doing it. Okay. Go to town. Very similar. But this one, if I go back to composition, one of the different, no. I'll have to figure that one out. Has anyone done this one? Stabilizing? I did it before, and it just makes his face the center of everything. And I forgot one step. Well, in the sake of time, I'll move forward and I'll show it to you guys. I'll make a little amendment. Because it's really cool to figure out the stabilization. Alright, so last one, before moving on, is actually how to track a camera. And this is the one where they're going into videos and out of videos, right? I just want to show you how to do 3D camera tracking inside of a space. So, I have here my fight scene. Alright, and I have a nice little 3D space right here. Walking through the door, throwing a guy through a door, walking through here, looking up, looking down, all the way to here. Alright, let's do all that. Trim. Cool. And we're going to go back and select this, and it enables a tracker. And if I say track camera, it's going to add in this camera tracker over here. And what it's doing is analyzing the whole thing in the background. I want to show little points it's analyzing, and I want to do it in very high detail. Okay. And what it's doing is it's finding all these points of interest and trying to track them. It's doing lots of pixels inside of space. Let's give it a moment on this one. I need 2 After Effects open so I can debug the other one at the same time. And of course, the longer the amount of frames, more amount of frames, the longer it takes to do the stuff. So this literally has 40 seconds left to analyze. And what it's going to do is going to create a 3D camera in 3D space that actually moves around and can actually be imported into Cinema 4D, all this kind of stuff. And you can deposit 2D objects as 3D objects and stuff. Alright, it's solving for the camera. I can also just pull this one out of the oven as well, but do a baking show. But there's an aha moment when it just starts showing stuff. Isn't there a percentage? Give it a second. Well, I got impatient, so I'm going to move. So, anyway, this is what it gives you. You guys see that? Isn't that really cool? So when he looks up, I can select a point of reference And so like that's a point of reference I want to put a cat on or whatever. So a little GIF. And let's do it the other way. Just delete it and put it on this way. Something like that. Of course, it only starts at the beginning. There it is. And now this layer is only, it's 2D, so I need to make it 3D, right? There it is. Kind of fix it where I want to put it. Now I got 3 axes. And I have some rotation as well. A little wonky.
So it kind of calculates the angles.
It's created a 3D camera. Yeah, from all these different points of interest. With it having a 3D thing, and let's do the whole loop out thing from before, right? Underneath time remapping. Loop out. Break it. And drag it. So, it's kind of connected to him. I chose the wrong point. But you see how we're getting closer. I was just super close to him. I was trying to make it more in the distance. No, that's not the one. Because what's cool is that, like, if he's out of frame, it's really cool when they become in frame. Anyway. So I have to mask it out there, probably. There it is. It lives right there in space. That's how I put posters on walls, right? Cool. And that's how they put the other videos that you can walk inside of, and video, right? So we've done 2 different kind of approaches this week. We've done how to mess up pixels and how to use pixels as our best friend. And what I want you to try to do is do a little bit of corruption and a little bit of construction, and try to bring them together and make something that makes sense, right? It's up to you guys to figure out a way to make a dialogue, and it doesn't have to be super complicated. It doesn't have to have a beginning, middle, and end. But the homework is to mess around with this fun stuff. I gave you a bunch of links to a bunch of stuff, and take some of the videos you made before, destroy them, and try to do some of these techniques and create dialogue between these techniques, explaining why you're doing this. And then give us a title this time, title your piece, give us the dimensions of the piece, and then, as I was saying before, we'll be projecting in 2 weeks as kind of like our midterm workshop. It's just as long as we work hard, everyone gets good grades. So just think of what you would want to project on, something that's portable, that would be kind of fun, that it would be like a blank slate. If it has too much color, that color might show through. So try to find something with like a neutral or consistent color. And then we can always color correct as projection, but make sure it's consistent. And then that'll be 2 weeks. I'll remind you guys next week. There's a couple more readings, like a history of the glitch art, and then this is a more in-depth tutorial on data moshing and the Glitch Studies Manifesto. Cool. And then I'm sure I'm just missing one button on this dude, tracking him, and I'll tell you guys what it is when I figure it out. I have it at home and I can show it to you right now, but you guys don't need my proof. You trust me that I've done this before. Cool. So I'll